Hello everybody and welcome to Monday's edition of the Chris Pritchard Cycling News Show. Did you all have a good weekend? Of course you had a good weekend. There was loads of cycling on. It was the World Championships. We're going to get into everything that happened at the World Championships over the weekend shortly. But first up, and you've only got until Wednesday now to enter the Win Your Dream Bike draw. If you haven't entered already, head over to Win Your Dream Bike, enter your details, answer the skill-based question, buy your tickets, sit back, relax, wait for the draw to happen on the 5th of October. It's going to be off the hook. Pinarello F12, Pinarello F10. I'm sick of telling you all this. Stevens bike, Science in Sport Nutrition, kicker, brand new kicker. This is mine, but you'll get a new one. All for the price of coffee and cake. Why would you not try and enter? Because someone's going to win it. Remember Richard? He won the first draw in July and he picked up his brand new Pinarello F12 and he has been out on it, riding it and enjoying it. So that could be you this month. Bloody enter, so I don't have to tell you anymore. Come on, do it. Oh, and while I've still got your attention, please hit that subscribe button. I want to get to 35,000 subscribers before the start of the Giro. So if you want to be kept abreast of all the latest news of the Giro, La Vuelta, all those classics that are going to be happening, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Do it now. Ta. And I guess there's only one thing really to talk about today, and that is the World Championships that took place over the weekend. Now, originally, these World Championships were set to take place in Switzerland, but because of the whole Corona lockdown, they ended up getting cancelled, but the UCI reinstated them and moved them across to Italy in Imola. And oh my God, what a couple of days of racing, as if we'd not had enough already with the Tour de France happening only last week. Now we've got the World Championships, and when we look beyond that, we've still got the Giro, we've still got all the classics to go, we've still got La Vuelta, we have got so much cycling still to come. Now normally at this point in the year, we're looking back at the World Championships going, that's essentially the close of play for this year. And then we start thinking about the spring classics, but we've still got so much cycling to go. So bloody excited. Anyway, now before we find out what happened in the championships, you probably already know, but we'll go through it anyway. What I want to know is, do you think we're at a point now where the women's race should be the same distance as the men's race? You saw it in the time trial. The women covered exactly the same distance as the men. Now I think we're at a point now where the men and the women should be covering the same distance, especially when they're using the same route and it's the same race, essentially the World Championships. Or if you're racing a spring classic, they cover the same distance. I don't know why we still have differences in distance for both the men and the women. The men's race was 258 kilometers, which is about 160 miles, and the women's race was almost half that. That was 88 miles and 143 kilometers. Now I don't know whether you'd reduce the men's race down to the same level of the women's, or you increase the women's distance up to the men's, or you find a middle ground in between. Because I don't know about you, but the world is almost a 7-hour race. It's something similar to like Milan-San Remo or Paris-Roubaix. It's a long old bloody day. And, well, let's look at Milan-San Remo. Nothing really happens until you get to the Poggio and the Cipressa. And that's when all the action kicks off in the last 50 kilometers. Now, do we really need 5 hours, 6 hours of just constant riding just to try and find out who's the weakest, who's the strongest? Because surely it's the same if the race was only 4 hours long. If you want to tire riders out, you need to attack harder and you need to attack for longer and more frequently in a shorter race. That's why some of the most exciting races you see are the women's races, because they only have a short amount of time in which to dish out some pain. So they just absolutely smash it from the gun. And you saw that with the Tour de France, and you look at what the ASO are trying to do, and they're wanting to shorten up those stages, get rid of those long old stages, and instead putting in these short, sharp, punchy stages where people are just battering each other. And I think that produces much more exciting racing. I don't know, maybe you like the fact that they race for 7 hours and it's just a war of attrition towards the end, and it is whoever's got the strongest legs. For me personally, I'd rather see a shorter race with more attacking and more aggression throughout it, rather than it just being a war of attrition and people just going out the back with no real attacks going forward, but just a higher pace of racing that just whittles all the weaker ones out the back. But yeah, let me know on this one. Do you think we're at a point now where women's racing should be the same distance, especially, again, like I say, on the same routes, on the same courses, on the same races? They should have the same distance as the men. And how would you do that? Would you take the women up to the men's level? Not that it's a bigger level, but you know what I mean. Increase their distance, or reduce the distance for the men, or create a new middle ground somewhere in the middle where both men and women are racing at the same distance to get the best out of the competition. Leave your comments down below. Now, with all that being said, like I said, the women's race on Saturday, 143 kilometres, 88 miles, over the same demanding course that the men are going to be taking part in on Sunday. It was set to be a brilliant race. And it came as a surprise to me to see Annemiek van Vleuten on the start line less than a couple of weeks after she broke her wrist in the Giro Rosa. Now, the race started at the famous motorcycle racing circuit of Imola. Brilliant little course this. Really narrow roads. Makes for great racing. And as you'd expect, the Dutch were on the front, driving the pace hard. Now, there was a group up the road of around 10 riders, but the main peloton weren't happy with that. With 42 kilometres, they brought that gap back down and they made one big group right at the front. Annemiek van Vleuten was in there, Anna van der Breggen was in there, and Marianne Vos was also in there. And unsurprisingly, before they came to the final lap, Anna van der Breggen put in a massive effort. Now, this just shows you that this race, although there is a bit of teamwork going on, Annemiek van Vleuten was trying to get across to Anna van der Breggen then. She was trying to close that break down a little bit, which is not something you'd see normally on a race when teammates are riding together. Van der Breggen, however, after winning that time trial, was clearly on a high. Coming into the final lap, she was head and shoulders above the rest of the riders, and it looked like hers for the taking. The team for Elisa Longo Borghini set it up for her to have another attack on the final climbs. She managed to get away with Cecily Uttrup Ludwig, but unfortunately for her, she had a problem with her gears. Di2, clearly not always the best thing to have. Sometimes it's better to go old school with the mechanical gearing, maybe the rim brakes, because she ended up getting stuck in a gear that she couldn't get out of, ultimately dropping her from that little break that was trying to get across to Anna van der Breggen. She took victory, and then it was a sprint to the line with Elisa Longo Borghini and Annemiek van Vleuten. And I mean, this sprint, that was a bit dirty by Longo Borghini. I think had Annemiek not got second place there, she potentially might have been relegated a place for that. That was touch and go, because she did move across on her just a little bit. But there you go, Anna van der Breggen, double world champion. Cecily Uttrup Ludwig ended up finishing 8th. Lizzie Deignan, great performance there, in 6th, and it was a dominating performance by the Dutch. 3 riders in the top 4. Now onto the men's elite road race, 258 kilometres, 160 miles, the same course, the same demanding roads of Imola. And again, this was an amazing race. But it wasn't until the final couple of laps, probably the last 3 laps, when the race really hotted up. And clearly you could see the French there working, trying to set Julien Alaphilippe up. Coming off a great, well, I say great, he had a great first week of the Tour de France. But unfortunately just didn't seem to have the firepower that he needed in the last week or 2 of the Tour. Tadej Pogacar ended up having a puncture on the circuit. He managed to rejoin this group, but then it was up to the Belgian riders, and clearly the favourite going into this World Championships was Wout van Aert, and the Belgians were prepared to work for him and set him up best they could towards his final couple of climbs to ensure that he took victory. Now, Tadej Pogacar had different ideas completely. Again, 2020 Tour de France winner decided to just go up the road, and he was clearly trying to set something up for Roglic here, because yeah, he did look fatigued and he looked tired and he looked like he was absolutely on the limit. Now, as the peloton eventually caught him, Tom Dumoulin tried to, well, I don't know what he tried to do, to be fair. It was a half-assed attempt at a break, and he ended up just staying in the pack. But with 17 kilometres to go, Julien Alaphilippe on the final climb just again ripped the rulebook up. Wout van Aert was expected to win this one, and had it come down to a sprint, you wouldn't have bet against him the way he'd performed in the Tour de France. But Julien Alaphilippe, you know what he's like. He's having none of it, and the only way he was going to get to that finish line with a chance of winning it was to be going solo on his own. And that 5-rider group behind him just finessed themselves just a little bit too much. Now, they were clearly refusing to work unless Wout van Aert worked. And you know, they all came through and they did their turns, but they didn't really commit to that chase of hunting down Alaphilippe because they knew they'd just essentially take Wout van Aert to the line. And you can see here in the finish, Hershey had a good dig at him. Roglic right at the back, couldn't do anything about it. Fuglsang, the only rider who wasn't at the Tour out of those 6 riders at the front, he couldn't even do anything. Wout van Aert sprinted from the front. I've got to say, that man in the rainbow jersey just looks right. So there you have it. Julian Alaphilippe, your men's road race world champion, and Anna van der Breggen, your women's world road race champion. And the beauty of it is now, they still potentially get to do, well, for Alaphilippe anyway, he gets to do 2 Grand Tours potentially in the rainbow jersey before the end of the season. He gets to race the classics in the rainbow jersey before the end of the season. And what a race, what a performance. He rode that tactically perfect. He knew what he had to do. His French team helped support him to get to that position, to then be able to hit that attack, and just no one, again, I said it before last year I think, that Alaphilippe just rides on pure panache, rides on pure passion. And it's amazing to see someone like that just lay it all on the road. He knew what he needed to do. He knew when he needed to attack. And he did it. And he went all out. And the amount of times he was looking round, you knew he was in a lot of pain. You knew he was really struggling with that effort. The thing that got him through that 17 kilometres was probably his adrenaline and his emotion of potentially winning that world championship. It was just amazing to see. Like I said, if anybody had towed Wout van Aert to the line, then they were always going to be sprinting for second place. So there was nothing he could do. He did try on a couple of occasions to try and break that little group apart or potentially string it out a little more so they'd all start working a little bit quicker, but no one was really doing that. And I've got to say, over on Twitter, there was a lot of unhappy Belgians that were very, very disappointed in Primož Roglic not assisting Wout van Aert to help try and pull back Alaphilippe for Wout van Aert to be able to go for the victory after all the help Wout van Aert had put in to Primož Roglic's Tour de France only a few weeks ago. But it's the world, man. It's a completely different kettle of fish. You know, in fact, we saw it in the women's a little bit. I don't think she would have pulled anyone else to her, but when Van der Breggen attacked, Annemiek van Vleuten was ready to try and chase her down as well. Now, had she brought someone with her, that wouldn't have been very tactically sound. But then again, there'd still be 2 Dutch riders up there. But if she'd have got away with Anna van der Breggen and Annemiek van Vleuten together, then potentially they could have 2-up time trialled and got a bigger gap. But it's the worlds. Primož is Slovenian. Wout van Aert is Belgian. I think, for me personally, like that whole trade team thing goes out of the window when it comes to worlds. Plus, Primož is coming off the back of a very emotional Tour de France. He can't be feeling the freshest, and he even said that he had no legs. Wout van Aert clearly had no bad feelings and wasn't expecting him really to come through and help. I think they chatted about it, but he knew that he was on his last legs, so he wasn't going to come through and do anything. He did nothing in the sprint, Roglic. So, like, I wouldn't get upset if Bernie Eisel, for instance, didn't help Mark Cavendish to a world championship. He's German. He's loyal to his country. And that's the only time I think a rider would ever do that and be right to not work for somebody, because you just can't do that. Leave your comments down below on this one. What do you think? Would you have been happy to see Primož support Wout van Aert if he had the legs? Do you think it's something he should have done, being Slovenian, assisting a Belgian in a world championship race? We're not talking about individuals here. We're not talking about Primož Roglic helping Wout van Aert. We're talking about a Slovenian assisting a Belgian to take the world title. I don't know. Leave your comments down below on that one and let me know. And finally in the news, probably the biggest news of the weekend, something we should all take a moment and celebrate. It was Carl Friedrich Hagen's birthday. From all of us here at the Chris Pritchard Cycling News Show, the sound man, the cameraman, the lighting operator, we would all like to take this opportunity to say happy birthday, Carl Friedrich Hagen. It is my absolute pleasure to wish you a very happy 29th birthday, albeit slightly belated. Thanks for watching, everybody. That is the end of today's show. Make sure you hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button if you've not done already. Hit that notification bell so you know when we go live with our live videos. If you've not enjoyed this video for whatever reason, hit that dislike button. Let me know why in the comments down below. And yeah, let me know about everything that we spoke about today. Spoke about in today's video. All right? See you soon. Deish.